Hello, my name's Phil and welcome to another edition of Vermont's 100 Covered Bridges. Now, today it's the 18th of January. This is the first time I've been out this year to film. Can you guess what I got for Christmas? So that's going to help me going in there later today. So I'm actually doing two bridges today. This episode, the Phill Gatenby Bridge in Grafton. And after this, we're going to film next week's episode, which is about 4 or 5 miles away. That's the Hall Bridge, and that is in Rockingham. Firstly, as we can see, it was originally built in 1870. But then on this side, we're informed it wasn't rebuilt, but it was modified and refurbished in 1995. There's also a little first here, and this is welcome from the Vermont Covered Bridge Society. So we'd like to think that one of these is going to be on every single bridge. But if you click onto that QR code there, you can find out more details about the bridge. Anyway, so here we are, Phill Gatenby Bridge. This is a King's Post truss, but as you can see, it's got a steel beam as well to help support it. The reason for that is because this bridge, it's 66 feet long. It's actually the shortest in the county of Windham. But King post trusses are traditionally less than 44 feet long, and that's why it's had the additional steel post in to help it have that extra length. One other thing about this bridge is that it has a slight skew. It's orientated on a skew, and it follows the riverbed, and the trusses form a parallelogram because it's 15% off rectangular, and it's quite hard for me. I mean, I can see it. I'll try and show you what I mean. Well, if I'm looking at this here and I'm following that line where that crack is between the road and the bridge, you can see it's not straight. So it's 15% off, which makes it that parallelogram. Now, it's also unique in that it's the only bridge in Vermont that has a sway brace. Now, sway braces are normally used on open bridges, and these braces are used to counter the lateral pressure on bridges and other structures during high winds, which clearly isn't really prevalent for this bridge. Finally, another little unique thing, although it doesn't satisfy everybody, is in the mid-90s, the bridge went a lot of refurbishment. If we follow the road behind me here, there used to be, it's like a dirt track. It used to be a soapstone quarry. So there's a lot of heavy trucks were coming down here. And over the time, obviously, the wear and tear damaged the bridge. So much so that the town were thinking of bringing it down. But a lot of local folks and businesses got together and said that no, we want to save it. So it was refurbished. And what they did was they installed glue laminated beams, as you can see here, and they're on both sides. Now, it's very hard to get hold of the traditional strong pieces of wood that were used over 100 years ago. So they use these glue laminated beams instead. So it's just sort of sections and sections all glued together to make one long beam. Now, traditionalists weren't happy with that, as I say, because they weren't part of what was built 100 odd years ago, but it was a compromise that was reached. And in a way, when you look at all these marks here, in a way, they've saved the bridge from further destruction from vehicles using it. It's a small bridge, and it's got a small number of unique things that aren't on any other bridge. And that's the beauty I'm finding when you come to all these bridges, that they are very unique in their own little way. Everyone's special. So that there is the south branch of the Saxons River. It's a short river that is 6 miles long, and I'm hoping, as you can see, and as you can see what I'm doing, I'm definitely walking on ice today, and the bridge is behind me. So yeah, so I'm actually stood on, not in, the south branch of the Saxons River, 6 miles long. It starts in the hills between Townsend and Grafton, and comes down, picks up a load of tributaries, and about 100, 150 yards upstream, it joins the Saxton River, which is where we'll be. So I'm at the confluence. As you can see, there's the Kidder Hill Bridge, and this is the point where the south branch of the Saxton River meets the Saxton River. So here I am under the bridge. It's got, as you can see behind me, solid concrete abutment. And these were installed 2011, because guess what? Storm Irene came along. Didn't damage the bridge itself, the actual wooden structure, but it did damage the abutments. So these were, the bridge was taken out of action for a couple of months, and the abutments were strengthened. So now I'm just going to go a little bit downstream. Here you can see, and here, the south branch of the Saxons River flowing. I don't know why, but it's reminding me too much of the film The Omen. Is that Omen 2? Where they're playing the ice hockey, and the young boy goes through the ice, and they're all following him, trying to get him out. So bearing that in mind, I'm not going to stay on here for too long. So here I am downstream from the bridge, and this is one of 5 bridges that the town of Grafton have had. But the other 4 were all on the Saxons River, not the south branch of the Saxons River, and they no longer stand. So it's the last remaining bridge in Grafton. Or is it? Because there may be another one, and that's where we're going to go next, after I've shown you a video of the south branch of the Saxons River meeting our friend Storm Irene. So I searched online on YouTube for any footage from the Storm Irene 2011 on the south branch of the Saxton River, and came across this scene, and all of a sudden it was like, wait, what's that in the corner there? It's a covered bridge. Go back, I want to see more, and I thought there was only one covered bridge in Grafton, so naturally I had to go back and find out more. So I'm just on the edge of Grafton. As you can see, we're at the Grafton Village Cheese Company. So this was a cooperative set up by local dairy farmers in 1892. There was no refrigeration in those days, so any milk they had left over, if they didn't do anything with it, they just had to spoil it and waste it. So instead they all got together and they decided to make cheese. So that was the local cheese factory. What's that got to do with where I am? Well, what it has to do with where I am now is that if you just watched that clip I showed of the south branch of the Saxons River flowing crazily during Storm Irene, you may have noticed, because I certainly did, this little thing was in the background, and it got me thinking, hang on a minute, I thought there was only one covered bridge in Grafton. And there's me thinking I've just made this discovery that nobody else in the Vermont Covered Bridge Society has made. So off I went and asked a few people from the society, and back came the message that yeah, it's a covered bridge, but it's not a true covered bridge. It's what is called a romantic covered bridge. Which begs the question, when is a covered bridge not a covered bridge? And that's what I'm going to talk about next. So over the last 50, 60 years or so, a lot of these non-traditional romantic bridges have sprung up, and you'll find them in places like this where, you know, there's a big business that attracts a lot of tourists. You'll find them in picnic areas. Some schools have them, and they, like this one, I mean, it's a good reproduction if you're looking at it from the outside, but when you look at the truss, I mean, it looks like a king's truss, but it isn't linked to the abutments. Basically, it serves no function at all, and this bridge is neither historic nor authentic, and that excludes it from being on the official list. Who decides what is a traditional covered bridge and what is a non-traditional covered bridge? And the answer to that question is the World Guide to Covered Bridges. Now, this is a guide that's been published and updated 8 times by the National Society of the Protection of Covered Bridges. The first edition was 1956 and the last one was in 2001. So that's who you've got to convince in order to get into the official guide. Thanks again for joining me at this bridge. I'd say it's the least used of all the bridges that I've been to. Say it's a dead end up there. It used to be a quarry. There's probably a couple of houses, nothing more. But still a unique bridge, and the only one left in Grafton, as we've seen. It's important to know your covered bridges. Once again, invaluable help and support from the Vermont Covered Bridge Society, and that's it from me. Join me next week for another video.